Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to our April Tech Bite, which will be about moving management to the cloud. As we all, as I think you know, and I think we've had, some of our Tech Bites talk about them. We have most, if not all, of our checkpoint management technologies available in the cloud, right? Offered as a service. Um, this includes what we're going to talk about today, being firewalls and also endpoint management. Um, what I want to talk about a little bit, here's our agenda is, I'm going to do a brief overview of why someone might want to migrate to Smart-1 Cloud, our firewall management as a service. What's the process? We're going to briefly demo. I don't actually have a machine to migrate, but I'll show you how to get there, what the process, what the steps are, etc. And then I have a slide about, known limitations and things to consider, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'm going to kind of repeat the same process, why someone will want to move to Harmony Endpoint Cloud Management. And again, we'll demo how to do that. And then we'll talk a little bit about the known limitations and things you might want to consider. So first one, why would someone want to move to Smart-1 Cloud? And this is a very brief summary. There's a lot of reasons and a lot of things to check out. But the nice thing about Smart-1 Cloud, right, it's always up to date because Checkpoint does the maintenance, right? We apply the version upgrades, the hot fixes, etc. The way it works is you actually get like an email from us that says, hey, in 2 weeks at X and X date and time, uh, we will go ahead and move you to jumbo fix or version blah blah blah. And of course you can push that off or decline that for now, etc. So yeah, it's always available. But yeah, it's we do the upgrading for you. You don't have to worry. Um, Zero maintenance, kind of that part, but also that you don't have a machine, right? You don't have to worry about that machine. Um, the on-demand expansion, right? So typically we sell management appliances or virtual machines with a license for 5, 10, 25, 50 machines. Uh, Now that kind of, that model's worked for us for a long time, and we still have it, of course, but it does kind of make it a little funky when you have a 5 gateway machine. You had 5 gateways and now you add a sixth. So it's time to, turn that machine in and get a new one. Uh, Same thing when, you go from 10 to, 11, you got to move to a 25 machine. So this eliminates that because we sell it and it's sold, per gateway. We do have a 5 pack as well. But it's sold per gateway. So you add a gateway to the Smart-1 Cloud license. And it adds the extra storage for logs, etc. So it's just easy peasy. Easier access, right? So, today with an on-premise management, you need to have some kind of internal access, right? So let's say you're at home and something's got to get changed. You need to VPN to where you can reach that management appliance, or you need to remote to a jump server, which just eliminates the need for a jump server in the first place, at least, for us. Um, so it's just easier access, right? Because all you're doing is logging into the cloud portal. Um, and then, the perhaps the most basic or obvious, it removes another thing from your data center, right? So it's one less thing in the rack, one less, chunk of VMware that's getting eaten up, and it's, little less cooling, little less power, a little less all that stuff. So that's kind of the summary. There's a lot more, reasons to go to Smart-1 Cloud, and I did do a tech bite. So if you want to look back on the YouTube channel, you can find that one that, where there's a good demo of Smart-1 Cloud and the kind of hows and whys. But I'm going to take this time now to just show you quickly. So let's expand. Come on, let's expand this. So This is Smart-1 Cloud in the Infinity portal, right? We're here in Smart-1 Cloud. This is like the dashboard, the landing page. The way to migrate, we go to settings. There is a migrate section of the settings. And this is how it works. There is a tool right here, the migration tool. We download it. The download, as you see, it's not terribly large. It's only, what, 12 megabytes, a little bit less. You place it onto your machine, onto the machine, your management device. We typically recommend putting it in the var/log directory. And we'll talk about that on the next slide I have, but it could be somewhere else if you want. These are the commands right here. These two. It runs this tool. It spits out a tarball file that has the whole database, everything you need, the rules, the objects, etc. And you go ahead and that you grab that file off the firewall. Now, keep in mind that this migrate tool that we just downloaded is customized for this tenant of Smart-1 Cloud. So, for example, our partners on the call, probably this applies to them more, but if you are going to do two separate customers, you need to go to each one's portal and grab the individualized tool that will connect to their tenant, right? As you can see, my tenant is called CP All Demo for this demo. As you see, this one's mapped to that, right? So if your company was, Acme Anvils, it would be Acme Anvils, and if the next one was, Spacely Sprockets, your second one that you download would have here Spacely Sprockets, right? So yeah, we run the tool, we grab the TGZ file off of the gateway, and literally all you do is import it right here with this button, and it uploads the database and the rule base, etc., to Smart-1 Cloud. Once that process is done, your management will have been migrated, but it will not be connected to the firewalls yet. From there, you continue the process. The admin guide has the steps in detail, right? And literally you can click this link and go ahead and go to the migration section, which is in here. Yeah, there it is right there. Migration, right? Here's some important steps and etc. Right? Some limitations. So we migrate over the management, and then all we got to do is go over to the connect gateways and go ahead and add a gateway here. So I'm going to move back to my PowerPoint now. So some of the things to consider and known limitations, right? And you saw the list in the admin guide. There's more than just this, but I think these are some of the key ones. You need the disk space for that migrate file. If your hard drive is, 99.9% filled, it will fail to generate that file. And you need to put it in a place where you're going to have that disk space, which is why we recommend that /var/log directory. You can migrate from R8020 and higher. Anything before that is not supported. If you're on R80 or R8010, it's pretty easy usually to upgrade to 8020 or 8040, which is the current lowest supported version. If you are below R8040, take 89. You will need to reset SIC to get the gateways to add to Smart-1 Cloud. We fixed that in take 89 of R8040. So if your gateways are beyond that, you'll be okay. Migration from multi-domain is not currently supported. And I think the reasoning behind that is that they look at it as, multi-domain was a way to get multiple tenants onto a single management machine. Now, the workaround is essentially to break those out. There's an SK on how to do it. to break those out into single domain managements and migrate them one at a time. And then what you would literally have is multiple tenants to switch through, like the way that, like I do, for example, as a Checkpoint employee, multiple tenants you can switch through quickly and manage those. Um, you also migration from a standalone machine, which is the firewall that has both management and firewall at the same time, is not supported. But a similar workaround is available, and there's an SK about that too. It's about 10, 12 steps. Essentially, what you're going to do is create like a VM in VMware or on your laptop even. Um, you're going to use the migrate, the traditional migrate tool to migrate your database over to that. And then you will effectively have a standalone or sorry, a dedicated management server from which to use this migrate tool we just talked about and demoed. And of course, CAdmin guide in that expected behavior and known limitations section for some additional detail on these limitations, as well as a few other things. But that's pretty much the process to move over to Smart-1 Cloud. Any questions so far on that part? And I'm looking at the chat, looking at the Q&A. Not seeing anything quite yet, which is fine if you come up with one in a minute or two, and we can definitely address that. Okay, so moving over to Endpoint. Again, we have Endpoint management available as a service in the cloud. And I definitely did a TechByte on Harmony Endpoint. I can't recall if we dove too deep into why the cloud might be better than on-prem. So in summary, again, same thing, right? It's always up to date, just like Smart-1 Cloud. We do the updates. Same scenario where we email you and say, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going to do this update at such a time. You could always push it back if you wish. No maintenance because there's no VM or management appliance to deal with. On-demand expansion, right? You're never going to outgrow the Smart-1 Cloud because you just keep adding endpoints to it. Easier access, like we said. It can be reached through a web browser and accessed from anywhere on the internet, and you can make your changes as needed. Removes another thing from your DC. But some other things for endpoint, right? Because the server is out on the cloud and accessible from the internet, wherever your endpoints are, whether they be at work, at one of your locations, at someone's home, at Starbucks, in France, on the moon, whatever, as long as they got internet access to that machine, as soon as it connects, that client reaches out to the internet to get that server and finds the current policy, the latest updates, whatever the client is supposed to have, it's going to get because it has access. Whereas on an on-prem server, you might need that machine to VPN first to get any changes in policy, or you might have to set up a policy server like in your DMZ, right, and have two machines to manage, and also that thing sitting in your DMZ, and so this is just much easier for constant contact between clients and the management server. The other thing is there's some additional features, right? So threat hunting specifically is not available today, nor has it been for the last year or two that it's been out. It is not available with on-prem management. I do hear it is coming eventually to on-prem management, but not available today. Another one is the push operations. There are a few push operations available on-prem, but there's a lot more of them available through the cloud management. There's also a lot of, I find that, the some of the like asset management views in the cloud management are a little bit easier to use and digest. So I'm not sure I would call it an additional feature, but maybe just a more cleaner GUI, perhaps in some senses. So yeah, there's some additional features or additional improvements that are available with Smart-1 or with endpoint management in the cloud. And so I'm going to go back to the Infinity portal, navigate on over to Harmony Endpoint. Okay, so here we see our overview page where we all land at Harmony Endpoint. Excuse me. And to go ahead and migrate over, we go over into migration tool here under endpoint settings. Similar looking page. And, here's link to the admin guide. And of course, you always have the normal link to the admin guide from anywhere in the Infinity portal. But similar process, right? So we download the migration tool. It generates the tool. We go ahead and we put it on the endpoint server that exists on-prem, right? Again, the var/log is the recommended folder, but you can put it anywhere that makes sense. As you see, it's downloading this export tool is a little bit bigger, at about 28 megs, right? And again, it's mapped to this tenant. So if you're doing multiple customers, you want to do, the first one with their tool and the second one with their tool, etc. But you run it, it pumps out a TGZ file. Here's the commands to do it. Pumps out a TGZ file, you grab it, you upload it right here and click upload. It goes ahead and it imports all your rules and your machines and your settings into this management server. Now, once that's done, there's a second part of this, which is the reconnect tool. So there's literally a tool in here to go ahead and to reconnect these machines, because literally, you've changed the IP of the management server. So now you need to change the IP that the clients are all reaching out to. That tool, you do have to run it on every machine that you have an endpoint client on. So, you do need to think about how you're going to do that, right? You could do it with like group policy as a script. You could do it with like an Intune or SCCM or something like that. So there's definitely ways to do that, but yeah, you got to grab the reconnect tool in here. Okay. So some known limitations and things to consider. Again, your management server needs to have the disk space for that migrate file. You might have seen on the page there in the portal that the expected size is around 5 gigabytes. Could be less. It's usually less, but you need to have that 5 gigabytes. In endpoint, you have to be at R8110 or higher. So that's a little bit higher version, but still you should be able to do regular upgrades to get there. The URL filtering is done differently, and it's a little bit better, frankly, on the Infinity portal. So you need to remove, disable and remove from the clients the old URL filtering before doing this. There's no more policy servers. So if you have a policy server, like we talked briefly about, that's used to spread out your policy to machines that are remote, there's no need for it because this cloud service is accessible from the internet. So you won't be migrating that. So the network authorized pre-boot bypass, or unlock on LAN as it might be known, is not supported. That's the feature where the full disk encryption takes into account that you're connected to the local LAN and acts differently. Um, because the machine will always be able to see the management server that essentially it doesn't let that it essentially like negates the purpose of that, right? So there's a few other things as well. You'll see them in the admin guide in the section migrating and on-premises SMS. There's also an SK with some of the known limitations, SK 179713, as you see there. That also can give you some additional detail. So that's it for the TechByte. Do we have any questions on endpoint migration, or or the firewall as well? And I'll pause a second, keep my eye on the chat. Okay, I got one. Do we? The question is essentially, do you foresee, um, Checkpoint not offering on-prem management for either of these things in the future? No, no. I think the Checkpoint, at least for the foreseeable future. I mean, I can't. Who knows where technology will take us in 5, 10 years? But for the foreseeable future, Checkpoint continues to have the on-prem management that you know and love. Um, we continue to roll out, lots of different updates and features to that as well. So, while there are some examples of features that are not on one versus the other, we saw a brief list on the endpoint side, for example. We do continue to innovate for both. Good question. And one more question says, oh, yeah, yeah. So it says, thank you for the presentation. Absolutely, you're welcome. I of course, I always hope that these tech bites are informational and helpful, and might make you think about some things that could be, or things you could try or improve, or et cetera. If you have any questions going forward about these moving to these cloud platforms, please reach out. And also, uh, let me know if you have any feedback on this session or any other sessions, or a topic you might want to see in the next few tech bites. Definitely appreciate you guys hopping on today. Hope you have a great day and week, and it's starting to get real nice for spring. So hopefully you get outside a little bit. Thank you very much.